welcome back to my channel, the best place to be wherever you are on your wealth journey right now. Today I'm going to be talking about the importance of credit rating and how to improve your credit score, including my 5 top tips on how to do just that. But first of all, I will say that if you are interested in more videos on wealth creation, mindset and personal finance, do subscribe to my channel just underneath and you'll get plenty more videos just like this one. So what exactly is a credit rating then, and why is it so important? Well, your credit rating or credit score is used by various institutions. So it might be lenders, mobile phone companies and utility companies, for example. And what they do is they look at your credit score and determine how risky you are to lend to. Now, your credit score is normally in the UK out of 1,000, or if you're in America, it's out of 850. And there's also one credit company, TransUnion, which rates everybody out of 710. Randomly, but there we are. So what they want to know is how creditworthy are you? How likely are they to get their money back? So let's say, for example, you were a lender and I came to you wanting to borrow £10,000. You'd want to know an awful lot about me before you lent me the money. And one of the key things that you'd want to know about me is how likely am I to pay it back? Okay, and my credit score or my credit rating is the indication of how likely you are to get your money back. So if I have a very high credit score, that's a good thing. Okay, the higher the better. So if I have a high credit score, that means that there's a very high likelihood that I will pay you back in full and not go disappearing off into the night with your money. If I have a low credit score, it means that I'm more of a risk to lend to. Now, if I've got a low credit score, it could mean one of two things. The first thing it could mean is that I've been bad with credit in the past. It might mean that I've defaulted on some loans, I might not have been able to pay something back, I might have gotten into trouble before with a lender. It might also mean that I've potentially gone bankrupt at a worst case scenario, or even that I've had a county court judgment, so I've been to court to settle about some money that I owed to somebody. So if you've had a bad credit situation in the past, you might fall under that camp. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you do fall under that camp if you have a bad credit score. What it might also mean is that you have no record of borrowing. So this might be somebody who's incredibly young, you've just started university and you've just got your first bank account sorted out, and obviously you've not borrowed any money in the past, so you're not proving to the credit companies that you're paying the money back because you haven't actually borrowed anything in the first place. So I might be very young, which would be an indication of me having no track record at all with borrowing. The other thing that I see quite frequently, sadly, is that people devolve the responsibility of their finances to their partner. So it could be husband, spouse, wife, whoever, okay, your other half. You've devolved responsibility to them. And sadly, I normally see this in ladies more often than men. So last year I had a lady that came into one of my trainings and she said, I've got a terrible credit score. And I said, oh, how come? I thought, has she been bad with credit maybe? And she said, oh no, I haven't been bad with credit, she said, but I just don't have any. And I thought, well, that's a bit strange because she was in her mid to late 50s, I would say. And obviously happily married. She was a perfectly lovely lady. She had her head on her shoulders. She was an intelligent lady. And I thought that's a bit strange that she's got no credit history. And we talked about why that was. And she said, my husband has absolutely everything in his name. And she actually printed out a copy of her credit report and showed me, and she said, look, she said, he has everything. He's got the utility bills, my mobile phone. She said, I've never had a credit card in my life, I've never borrowed anything, every time we need to borrow anything it's always in his name, and he's even got the main residence mortgage in his name as well. She said, so I've got absolutely no credit whatsoever. And it was really interesting to see that, and I would say if that is you, if you've devolved responsibility to somebody else, it comes back to what I always say about taking control and having responsibility for your money. You want to take responsibility, especially for your credit score, okay? Because imagine if something happens down the line, and you've got no credit, you need to show people that you're able to actually borrow and do stuff. And I would definitely say start now while you can, okay? So please try not to devolve responsibility to somebody else. I did have another lady that came to a different training of mine also last year, and she'd phoned up her credit card company to ask them something about the interest rate on the card. And they said to her, oh, madam, I'm very sorry, but we can't actually speak to you because that credit card is not in your name, it's in your husband's name. And she was furious because she didn't actually know that the card was in her husband's name. He'd obviously applied for the card, and normally there's a little checkbox and it says, do you want to add somebody else to the card? And he ticked yes and added his wife on, given her the card and said, this is for you. And she'd obviously thought it was her own credit card. So she was actually quite shocked when she found out that it wasn't her card. So again, you know, if you've got credit cards and things with another half, make sure that they actually belong to you and not vice versa, okay, because that will improve your credit score. Now, some of you might be sitting there thinking, but I don't want to borrow any money right now. But I would say to you, you know, think about the future, because even if you have got a partner who's responsible for all your finances, what happens if something happens to that person? You know, suddenly you're going to be lumbered with the responsibility of everything and you're not sure how it works and you haven't got a good credit score. So if you do need to move a mortgage or put yourself onto a loan or something like that, then you're going to be struggling with that. There'll be a limited pool of lenders that can help you. So you definitely want to make sure that you take responsibility for your own credit score, okay, because nobody will care about that as much as you do. While I'm on the subject of control and responsibility, I will also say, guys, that you need to make sure that you know what your credit score is, okay? It's no good having checked it way back in 1956 or something. You have no idea what it is now, okay? You need to check it now and make sure that you know what your score is now, because it does actually change month on month on month. So you need to make sure that you're keeping up to date with it on a regular basis, just to make sure that everything's there and to make sure that you can take responsibility and control. You'll feel much, much better about your finances once you've done that. And even if you've had bad credit in the past, there are still things that you can do now to improve your score, because credit score will always improve with time, okay, providing that you're continuing to be good every single month, okay? So this is where I want to talk about my 5 top tips for improving your score. So first of all, once you've checked your score, make sure that your name and your address and everything that is about you that is on your credit file is spelled the right way. So if you've got quite a long name, just make sure that it's spelled correctly. If you've got lots of middle names or someone calls you by a middle name instead of your first name, just make sure that that's all up to date on your credit file and that your name is spelled the right way. Usually looking at your passport is a good idea, because usually if they want proof of ID, they'll ask for your passport. So if your passport name and the name on your credit file are the same, then that will stand you in very good stead. So make sure that your name is spelled right. Also your address, because even if you live at somewhere like 25A, the high street, if the A is in lowercase or uppercase, that potentially can also affect your credit score. So just make sure that that is all okay on the file. Okay, the second thing is to make sure that you're on the electoral roll or the electoral register at the place that you live in, okay? So 2 very important reasons to go on the electoral roll. Number 1 is so that you can actually vote when the time comes. And number 2 is so that people can see where you live, particularly lenders. Because lenders want to know, let's say again, I come to you asking for the £10,000, you'd want to say to me, okay, but where do you live? Because if I default on a payment or I can't pay you back for any reason, you can then send somebody along to my house and find out why I haven't paid that money. So it gives you more security as the person lending to me. Now, I can show you a good example of how electoral roll actually affects your credit score, because if we look here, this is my credit score from August 2017, and it was just after I moved house. Now, I wasn't on the electoral roll at the house that I moved to because I'd literally just moved. I hadn't had time to put myself on, but that month I checked my score and we can see here that my score is 896, which is a pretty good score. In fact, it says here it's very good. So I'm happy with that. And we can also see here that it says not confirmed on the electoral roll. Now, if we fast forward a couple of months, by this point I had put myself on the electoral roll at my new address, and we can see here it says confirmed on the electoral roll, and my score has gone from 896 to 918, which is pretty good. In fact, it's outstanding, I'm told now. So I'm really happy with that credit score. So even something small like that can really affect your score in quite a big way. So make sure that you put yourself on the electoral roll. The third thing to do is to have a look at your financial associations. So when you check your file, it will tell you who you're financially associated with. And that means who else do you have credit with? So have you got a joint bank account, for example, with somebody else? Have you got a joint mortgage with somebody else? You know, what are you doing with another person in your life, whether it's your business partner or your bed partner, your life partner, whoever it might be, okay? What sort of things are you doing with that person? because that person will be affecting your credit score. If they have a very good credit score, then they can pull your score up. If they have a very bad credit score, they can also pull your score down. Now, the important thing here is that let's say you've had a previous relationship with somebody and you had a joint bank account, let's say, with that person, but now they've gone on their merry way and you're left all by yourself and you're no longer financially associated with that person. You closed the bank account down ages ago. It might be that they're still actually on your credit file. So you need to check that and make sure that they're not there. Now, if they're not on your credit file, you can do number 4 of my list here, which is to do a notice of disassociation. And it basically says to the credit referencing agency, I'm no longer with this person anymore. Please remove them from my credit file so that they're not seen by all the other lenders anymore. Okay, and by doing that, that will stand you in good stead, because that way, whatever they do in the background, you know, if they get made bankrupt or something horrendous happens to them, they're really bad with their credit, that won't then affect you because they'll have been taken off your credit score. Very, very important to do that if you're no longer financially associated with somebody. Number 4 is to write in with a notice of dispute. If you see anything that's wrong on your credit file and you need to change it, send in a notice of dispute. You can also send in a notice of correction, but the notice of correction will just sit alongside your credit file. And every time you apply for credit, somebody will have a look at that and say, oh, there's a little note on here to say that that person's name is not spelled correctly. What the notice of correction does not do is actually correct the thing. It's the notice of dispute, so disputing the way that your name is spelled, for example, that is what will actually correct it on your credit score. Okay, and they have 30 days normally to do that for you, and then it will return to normal, and then every time you apply for something new, it will just show up on your credit score as your name is spelled exactly as it should be. So pretty straightforward way just to improve things from the get-go. Now, the 5th top tip that I have for you is actually to go and borrow some money if you want to improve your credit file. But, now there is some buts here, okay, and I'm going to put lots of caveats in. You must make sure that you keep up your monthly minimum payments, okay. Now, if it were me and I was starting again, obviously you've seen my file, it's pretty good. But if I was starting again, if I had bad credit, what I would do is I would go and get a credit card, just a simple single credit card on its own, and I would take that credit card to my local supermarket and I would buy my shopping for the week as I normally would with my normal wages or whatever income I have coming in. I would buy my shopping as usual, but I would pay for it on the credit card. And then once I'd paid for it on the credit card, I would bring the credit card home, I would put it in a drawer somewhere so where I can't get to it, it's not in my purse, I can't accidentally get it out and spend it on other things. I would keep it completely separate to everything. And then when the statement came the following month, I would pay that credit card in full. Okay, and that shows the credit lenders that I'm able to borrow money and pay it back, and slowly but surely that will build up your credit score. It's not going to happen overnight, it's going to be a slow and steady process, but if you do that, then eventually your score will improve, and you should start seeing that improve within the first few months of you doing that. Now, the one caveat that I will say as well is that if you're planning to do that, please, please, please set up a direct debit on your account, okay? Because certainly with your credit card, they will want you to make at least a monthly minimum payment to the card every single month. Now, if you pay it off in full, that's absolutely fine, but you need to do that by a certain date. And if you miss the date, even by a few hours, if you pay it the following day, it will still go down as a late payment on your credit file. If you set up the direct debit, it will automatically take the payment out before it's due, so that you know that it's going to be paid on time every single month. And even then, if you can't repay the full amount that month, you at least know the monthly minimum is going out, which again still shows the lender that you're able to borrow the money and pay it back. Okay, so make sure that you've got the direct debit set up. I've got direct debits all across all of my credit cards and all of my loans and everything, because it's so important to keep your credit in good condition. And again, it's about taking control and responsibility. Okay, so it's the responsibility of paying it back every single month. But if you do that, as I say, slowly but steadily, your credit score will improve and you'll see that happening as well. So hopefully you found that useful, guys. Hopefully you understand a bit more now about the importance of credit rating and why keeping your credit score in tip-top condition is a good idea. If you did enjoy this video, I'd really appreciate giving me a big thumbs up underneath here. Also have a watch of these two videos next of all if you did enjoy this one, because those ones will stand you in good stead as well. And I would also say please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already for plenty more just like this one. So until next time, guys, thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you next time.